Bam, there she is. Bring her right over here. And so that would be really cool. Let me make sure that yep, so it went through as far as, so that's good. We should get a really good group here today, I'm thinking. I don't think anyone's outside, at least in the Northeast. Everyone's hiding inside with the air conditioner. Maybe they're at the movie theater. Who knows? But let me go set up. So I'm just going to get this little step stool here. Okay, so have that. Bring my little triangles. My palette. And then some pastels. Right. Let's make this happen. So, hey, what's up there, John Payne? How's it going, sir? Good to see you. And Jesus, JC, good to see you, sir. Very cool. So we got a really good group today. So glad you're all here. Let me bring up my reference here on PureRef. There she is. Very cool. Very good. So nice group here. Great crowd. Great crowd. Now let me see if I can get my scissors, because when you're doing pastels in my technique, scissors are very, 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 very important. Let me see if I can bring this over here so you can see my palette. I know you guys like that. You guys are like, oh, let me see the palette, let me see the palette. So we're going to make that happen for you. Let's see. Sort of like a split screen here. Bring that over here so you can see my palette as I'm working. So that's pretty cool. Oh, cool. That would be great with the Bluetooth speaker. Definitely. Very cool. And, all right. So, let's see. Scissors. Where did they go? Scissors, scissors. Got them. Okay, I'm going to make some of these foam triangles. Made 4 of them, which is going to be very helpful. Alright, now, then I have some foam core ones here. Just sort of getting set up. Yes, definitely. JC, you're going to hear a lot of, maybe if I point my mic more to me, we'll have less this interference. How does that sound? Better? Oh yeah, that's funny. Yes. So but this is okay, this is better because I have an expensive mic, but I don't use it as an expensive mic. So now you can probably hear a lot less of the air conditioner, so that's cool. Oh, cool. So JC's hearing aid is back. Brad says it's much better. Total Pain says it's much better. John, okay. Cheers. Let's have some water. So on this July day, is everyone drinking a lot of water like I am? If I drank soda instead of water. Hey Brad, thank you so much, my friend, for the super chat. I really appreciate that, sir. That means a great deal to me. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, let's start to feed out right. I appreciate it. That is definitely starting to feed out right if I ever seen it. So thank you again, Brad. That is fantastic with the $10 super chat sticker. Like always, up. I gotta kill the top light, the chandelier. There we go. Otherwise, we're getting some sort of orange cast. So, right now, see, I'm doing a podcast. So today, we're going to be talking about. That's what it sounds like. So, I want to clean up the chin area. See, that's a little too dark. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little bit of a flesh color here. And I'm just going to just lightly glaze over that and calm that down. As they say in Spanish, cálmate, mijo, right? That's what I'm doing right here. Tranquilo. There we go. And I notice I don't do more than 3 brush strokes and that's it. 3 and move, right? You're going to get a little bit of a cast shadow from the microphone. Maybe not, that's better. Okay. That's cool. So that's funny. Patrick knows tranquilo. And thank you, Alexis. That's funny. Yeah, sometimes I have to tell my my colors to, relax, right? And I'm just going to take my time. I kind of, even though in the photo this is kind of like a gray, I like the orange there. It kind of adds some life to it. So sometimes I'll go outside of just what I see when I work in color. I like enhancing things. Oh yes, so only the words that you would either have to apologize after, right, Patrick? And so I'm just moving around, right? Just trying to find. Well, that's for sure. You don't want to say that to a Latina. Especially if you're arguing with her, you might as well just apologize at that point because you lost the fight. Now I'm going to make this area just a little more orange. So we have the skin tone, and then I'm going to kind of push that orange right over here. And now I'm just going to move this orange over. And you're in control of how much you put on there. So let's say, I put on a whole bunch. Well, that means you can just get a clean triangle and you could just kind of use the rest to kind of blend that in like so. And then once again, there's 2 ways to handle it. You could blend it in, or you can come back with that kind of flesh color and you could just just calm that down a little bit like we did on the chin, like so. Just calm that down. Now where we see where the disparity from the painting is on the edge there, so you can just calm that down, right? Hey Roy, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Hey Chris, how's it going? Now where is Chris Garcia? Great to see you, sir. How have you been? I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to go back to that orangey color, and we're just going to use that orangey color to put in some of the shade over here. And if the color gets a little ardent, a little too strong, we can always come back with and glaze over that skin tone. So we don't have to get it right the first time, just like in Airbrush. But a little better than Airbrush is that you don't have to, you don't, you have more time to get it perfect. In Airbrush, you don't have all the time in the world, but you have some time. Okay, so I'm liking that. Here is a little more of an orangey gray. So what I want to do is I want to take one of these foam cores here. Now the foam core is more of a scumbling technique, right? More of a scumbling. So I'm going to take a little bit of a grayish orange color. I still want to say it's in the same family, right? Keep it in the family, they say. Hey, keep it in the family, no problem. Bada bing, bada boom. See how I could kind of put some orange in there so it doesn't look like it's out of whack. And this is a scumbling triangle. And then I could lightly kind of connect the orange and this grayish orange together. Like it is so. And see how light it is here over the lip, which is no good because the values are much closer and the saturation is much closer. So I'm just going to glaze that so it doesn't look so out of whack. And we'll glaze some of this greenish orangey gray over here, like so. Create a nice sense of depth. It's always good to create a nice sense of depth. Oh, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. Yeah, pastel is sort of like, that's my main thing. I've been doing it since I was 15. Doing it seriously since 19 and exhibiting since 20, so quite a long time. Just now I'm starting to bring it into you know, my classes and stuff. But it was nice to get into, show everyone, you know, the skills in the airbrush world, which was good. Alexis says, really love how it's looking, really relaxing. Oh, I'm so glad.
I don't have an answer for that.
I'm so glad. Thank you, Alexis. I'm gonna kind of glaze in this orange there, but it's a little strong, so I'm gonna actually put some pink in it. And just sort of bring that in. Now we do it does have a little blotchiness, but just like any other medium, the blotchiness is going to go away once you know, start refining and put layers over and everything like that. So that's not a concern. Yes, so as Brad said, the cool part is the India ink underpainting. Yeah, that is. That's a real interesting part of this, is that, you know, I use the airbrush to get to this by doing that India ink underpainting. So the good thing about pastel is I can make kind of really huge changes, like in the shape of that eye, right? I can bring that down much. See how I could make that big change in pastel? That would be quite difficult if I was working in airbrush. No, definitely, because the you know, the thing is, this is pastel, so I'll get pastel on my hand. A lot easier to clean the hand than the pastel. So yeah, a glove doesn't work. Maybe like those like latex gloves might be a good thing. And I'm just going to lightly glaze, kind of blend this out. Great question, Brad, definitely. But like everything else, you know, we are just enjoying ourselves, taking it easy, not worrying about getting to a finished point. But I know I said in the blog post that I'm going to be working on her body. So let's go ahead and get that done. I'm going to get a fresh triangle. And what I want to do is I want to start coming in and working on the clavicle area, stuff like that. So I'm going to come in with a light flesh color, as you see. And I'm going to come, ooh, that's not light. I picked up a little too much of the orange. So I'm going to attach some of the kind of Naples yellow whitish color here. And we're just going to apply that. Notice I never put more than 1, 2, 3, because then I'm really applying the pastel. If I start putting more, I'm just going to be noodling it around and not putting any pastel in. Pretty soon I'm going to have to clean my palette because there's a lot of colors everywhere, and I'm accidentally picking up some color that I don't want to. Chris says, do your pastel art peeps keep you, peeps come down on you because you work with an airbrush? No, not, you know, those worlds don't meet, Chris, you know? It's like, there's like 2 different planets, you know? I think each of those worlds are, you know, mutually exclusive, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't agree with that. I think both mediums have a lot to learn from one another, right? So that's kind of a bummer, but definitely, yeah, you'll see that some of the fine art people have an attitude about airbrush. It's just because they don't understand it, or they're talking about the wrong airbrush, right? Because airbrush is just a tool. It's the artist who does it that really matters. As you can see, I'm working on her clavicle, and so this is a yellow. See how that's like kind of a yucky yellow? I'm going to bring in this orangey color, and we'll just adjust this here. So what I'll do now is just adjust that orange color, and then I'll come in with that lighter glaze. Maybe I'll use some scumbling techniques. It's worth a try. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to come out in this instance, but we'll see. Ah, thanks. I hope to be a trendsetter. Just being myself, Brad, but I hope that being myself kind of breaks the boundaries, because I'm constantly trying to break my own boundaries, kind of go outside my comfort zone whenever I can. So you see, I arrive at the value I want. I'm not trying to mix it perfectly. I'm just trying to kind of ease into the values that I need to be at. Same thing here. Let's scumble this and kind of work on her shoulder here. And this is what I mean about getting that surface texture. Eventually you have a texture that and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glaze this kind of light flesh color over this area just to soften this up. And the thing with pastel is something that you can definitely move around a lot more than you could with airbrush. So that's a refreshing thing once you try this. Hey, what's up there, Mr. Nameless? How's it going? Good to see you. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that, sir. Yeah, my goal is to bring the airbrush people and to see the coolness and the really great applications of pastel, and also I want the art world to see how talented all you airbrush artists are. So that would be a great thing if I can bring those worlds together, because they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, you both are doing just amazing work. Now I'm going to get another of these triangles of the foam core. I think I want to kind of come in with this pinkish color here. Kind of bring that in. Little pinkish orange action happening here. So even if it's a darker color, if I spread it on really thin, it becomes almost like a filter or a gel. So how you been there, Nameless? How's everything? So you see, one of the things I want everyone to take away from these live streams is basically how I use the tools in question, right? And that's what I tell all my students. It's not even how the project comes out, although I want your project to come out really well when you're in my class. But the most important thing is using the tools and going back and forth, using the right tool at the right time. So that's so much more important than that, you know? Oh, you're trying to finish one of your latest projects. Don't worry. See, the thing with procrastination, I have a little... This is a really good tool. This is not anything I read. This is just me. When I'm procrastinating and saying, I didn't get to do anything, I'm procrastinating, I don't think of the past. I only think of what I do now. So, yeah, so I procrastinated, for 6 months. It doesn't matter. What I do right now matters. So I just go ahead and just concentrate on what I do right now, and that makes a big difference for me. Kind of gets rid of that whole mode of procrastination. Give that a shot, because that really works for me. As you see, I'm just glazing the whole thing with this orangey color. All of her chest area here. So right here, and I always do a test, right? I always test out. Sometimes it'll work. I got a little crazy with this purple color here. So I could do two things. I could, paint over it, which will work. Or I could give it a shot and see what happens if I just tap it with my kneaded eraser. Will it pull it off? because remember we're working on a board, right? So I think it is working. I think that was a good decision. So I can just lightly pull that off. Plus, if I want to come in, since I have the eraser, I can actually pull out some of the lights, right? Which is really good. I don't have to use pastel. I could use the white of the board for a lot of these lighter colors. So you see, and then it would be a lot easier to glaze on top of that. So yeah, so I want you all to see the different tools that you can use to get the job done. So that's really neat. And Nameless says he was just looking at that part and thinking it looked like someone was putting their hand. Oh yeah, well we definitely got to take care of that, right, Mr. Patrick? So that's good. So yes. So yeah, and you know, I'm never in a rush. So Patrick is in my classes, and like everyone who's in my class, if you ever have a mistake, the most important thing is to do what? Is to just back off and assess the situation, come back to it. But one of the worst things we can do is like, oh my God, it's a mistake, and just attack it, right? That's something we don't want to do. So always remember that. It's always best to come back to a mistake after you thought about it for a while, like what's the best solution. So I'm going to use this kneaded eraser, and you notice that I could use this as if I was drawing with a pencil. I can just erase everything, and I could lighten values. I can make things more transparent, and I think that's really wild, you know. So I love that. And same thing over here. If I wanted to lighten that up, I could. Or maybe I want to lighten up the ear. Sometimes, you know, getting to the white underneath is more effective than, let's say, putting white on top. Not always, but oftentimes. So I can get the light of the clavicle here. So you see that really thin bone here. So I can just pull that over. And same thing with her nose. Now, remember this, when you're painting something and you're putting in a highlight, it only works if you have enough dark around the highlight, right? So I'm just going to scumble some darks around her nose here, right? See that? Make her nose a little red, maybe a little more of a pinkish color. And now you can just take one of these, clean one of these, and kind of smooth that out. But remember what we were saying about doing the highlight of the nose, right? You can come right over here. Make sure you get the right placement, of course. And then we could knock out that highlight on her nose without using white. Bam! That's what I'm talking about. And same thing here. Now again, if this isn't dark enough, then the highlight's not going to show up. So you want to make sure that you have dark enough skin tone around this highlight so it'll pop. And you may have to accentuate that. It's a little more than it is in reality, right? We're not photorealists. We're not trying to paint exactly like the photo. I mean, if it happens, then that's so be it. But our main thing is worrying about making a beautiful painting. Now I'm just going to go get my other water. I'll be right back. we're just continuing to kind of work on this light, and we can do that with the knead eraser. What I'm doing is kind of just plucking out the highlights, right? I'm not really rubbing it. I don't know what's going on with Facebook Live, but it doesn't allow me to schedule a live stream. I gotta pretty much come live, which is, you know, I don't mind adjusting, because adjusting is important for anything. There we go. All right, so again, we're going to continue working on her clavicle. Got a little sidetracked, but that's okay, for good reason. And okay, so we can actually come in here with this light where the clavicle and the sternum kind of meet. And then we have this lighter value over here. The great thing about working with my marble dust and gesso mixture is that you can basically work this as if you were working on canvas or doing in oils. You can rub, you can do scratching techniques, you can use razor blade techniques. You can do everything, no limits, because the surface is, you know, really quite robust. Hey, Mike DeLoach, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. I know, because I'm always at the 9:30 hour on Wednesday. That's an easy thing to kind of mix up a little bit there, Mike. So glad you're here. Glad you made it. Lighten this up a little bit here. Over here, it's quite light in her shoulder area. And like I said, things look blotchy. That's alright. We have a lot of layers to go, so it's no problem. But working in color is a lot of fun. Trust me, I really enjoy it. And so I suggest you work in black and white, you know, a lot, as well as working in color, because then you'll see values much better. I'm going to take this orangey color along the edge of her shoulder here. And we're just going to kind of go right along the contour. And the way I apply pastel is very similar to how I used to apply oils. No one knows this, but as far as art school goes, I'm trained more in oils than any other medium. My dad got very sick, and the oils kind of, you know, his breathing wasn't good. So I stopped using oils, and then I kind of used pastels more and more and kind of got away from the oils. You know, it's like when I'm painting, I'm not really worried about whether it's looking like the photo. It's sort of, you know, just laying in color and adjusting as I go. Think of it that way. And that's when you go to an art school like, you know, National Academy School of Fine Arts, the Art Students League, and you work from the model. This is how you're trained. You're not trained to mix the color exactly and apply it. That's more of a commercial art approach. That's not a fine art approach. I'm not saying it's better or worse, it's just a different approach. And not something you're taught in art schools. Oh, cool. So I hope you have a great dinner while you're eating, sir. We'll come in with this orangey color over here. We'll glaze this over with a nice orange. Kind of make sure it's a clean orange. See how I bring those two colors together. Maybe a little more of this Naples yellow color right here. A little bit of a deeper value. And bring those together. Maybe a little bit of white. Kind of lighten it up. Lighten up, Tim. That's what I gotta tell myself every now and then. To lighten up. Oh, okay. So I'm glad you're back, Alexis. Okay, I'm going to use the bathroom for a moment, talks amongst yourselves, and when I'm come back, I'm going to start introducing that light color to make this shoulder turn, and then we'll move down the clavicle to our sternum, back to the other clavicle. I'll be right back, guys. I am back, my friends. Thank you so much for waiting. So just like when I work in oils, I'm going to be darkening up this area just to come in and kind of bring in some lighter pastel. So over here you'll see I'm going to come in and I'm just going to come over here with a much lighter value. And I'm going to glaze this over here. Kind of work this over. First I want to get the light shape, right? So I'm going to be working to get this light shape here. And maybe I'll get a foam core because scumbling, you know, although it leaves less pastel, it actually does better when you're working on larger areas. Because you can just scumble that in and get a nice sense of edges. So watch this as I scumble this in, so you see how I could really establish my edge work a lot easier than using the other method. So I could, you know, work in the shapes here, just sort of scumble that light area. Just try to get this shoulder to turn, right? Turn towards the light and away from the light. And that's what we want to do. And with this, I could, with the 1 second rule, I can start to get a real sense of edge work here. Even come over here and kind of calm this down. And then I could actually continue this kind of way of working. Move over here, bring in some of this, let me cut a fresh triangle over here. Get this. Kind of mid-tone over here. Kind of work this over here like this. And just like anything else, a lighter pressure, you're going to put less pastel on there. And you see the eraser, although it was really good, it kind of left a hard edge I didn't want. So we're going to be addressing that in a little bit. Yes, bathroom. It's too hot for coffee, although I normally, Jesus is right, normally I'd have coffee right now, but it's just too hot for coffee. So remember we had to adjust that, right? So I'm going to come back with this light value, kind of bring this down because that got a little too much. See, now I can bring that down. So this is a live stream. I do predict that this one's going to go crazy, that there's going to be a lot of people here. Once the pastel world really gets wind that I'm doing these, this place is going to really start to rock. But, you know, I'm content where it is now, but I really feel that this will really start, because I'm a signature member of the Pastel Society of America and stuff like that. And once they find out that I'm doing these weekly live streams, then things are going to get a little crazy. It's a little pink, it's a little dead color there. So I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to just maybe lighten this up with the kneaded eraser. See how I can lighten up that value and get ready to put that kind of pinkish orange there, just to calm down that dark. That's a great thing. I could always come in and you know, lighten the value without any kind of blue shift or anything like that. There's no such thing as blue shift in pastel. It doesn't exist. So I'm sure that's refreshing for a lot of airbrush artists out there. Oh, that's fantastic, Brad. So we definitely have to, you know, do some mock photo shoots to get you going on your settings and everything when you're going to be doing your first photo shoot of your model. So that's going to be exciting. But we got to get you ready, right? We have to get you ready. See how I set that up now, coming in with this pinkish color? I lightened it up to come in with this pinkish color. And maybe a little more of an orangey color. Like I said, I got to get a new, put new sandpaper there because all the colors are getting overloaded on my palette. See how I put the colors together and then I mix them? Get a new triangle. So I want this kind of orangey color. With the regular foam, I'll do no more than 3 strokes, but with this foam core, I'm just going to rub that into the surface, right? Rubbing that pastel into the surface. It's really great when you do this technique. What happens is that you don't have a lot of pastel on the surface, so it's not like, you know, it's almost like having dried oil paints on there. Oh, great, Alexis. That's really cool. Yeah, no blue shift at all, which is really great. So that's fantastic. So I'll prove it. I'm going to scumble some white right over the black, right? So here's black on her hair, and I'm just going to scumble white. Look at that, no blue shifts. None whatsoever. And that's, to me, when I first airbrushed, I was like, what in the world is that? Look at that, no blue shift whatsoever. It's like amazing, you know? Blue shift is one of the real detriments, or, you know, kind of the bad thing of airbrushing, is the fact that we have to deal with blue shift. I mean, that's not a game changer. I love airbrush, but that is something that, you know, is a thing that, you know, like, ugh, blue shift, have to deal with it. Have to deal with blue shift. That kind of sucks. See how that shoulder's starting to turn really nicely? like anything else, you know, whether you're working in pastel or working in acrylics or airbrush or India ink, patience is everything. So right here it's much lighter. So we're going to lighten this up, bring in some nice white color here. And of course you can see right now, since it's very thin, we're kind of seeing the dead color of the underpainting, right? Of the ink underpainting underneath. So that means we just got to bring some really nice fleshy color in there. But I'm going to take this white and kind of scumble over the whole thing just to make everything much more unified. See that? And so basically just kind of softening up all those colors. A lot like what you see Marissa Osterly do with her airbrush. She'll spray over the whole thing with a light glaze of white, and it kind of softens everything up. So when you go ahead and do the values on top of that, it gets more and more realistic as you go. Gets rid of any blotchiness that might be getting in the way of the illusion of reality. So like I say, you see me using all these different tools. I hope that really helps you when you decide to know the tools and say, hey, yeah, Tim used this tool. Let me try using that, and all of these other cool things, other cool aspects. So as I'm going, I'm also not only painting and drawing, but I'm refining, right? Refining the edges, and see how the neck looks a little more natural. And let's see what we have here. Blue lighting. Patrick says, Brad, how big of an investment is it? Oh, for photography equipment, not as big as you think. And Mike says that Timothy, does the pastel still suffer simultaneous contrast issues? Yeah, definitely. It's the same things we have to worry about, you know, with pastel. So that's why I like to build things up slowly, right? And as I build things up slowly, I could bring them, you know, bring everything up. So as you see, I have the whole painting going. So now I could bring everything up slowly. So yes, the simultaneous contrast will get in the way if we're not careful. And one of the things that really combat that, if I just painted that eye and finished that eye like totally, everything else would have been too light and I wouldn't see all the colors. But bringing everything up slowly, I could really start to see the colors for what they are, you know, relative to each other. So the secret for me, once the painting really starts to get going, is when everything is covered with color, and then I could start adjusting as I go. Yeah, what I did was I built it up slowly. First I got a good camera, right? You know, a good entry-level camera, the SL3. That camera is like $500 for the body. And then I got a good lens, which is the 50mm 1.8, which is like 150. And then from there I got myself, you know, saved up and got the flashes, which are 2 flashes and a transmitter. Then after that I started getting a backdrop, you know, some light modifiers like an umbrella, and then little by little just kind of brought it together. I had a really great friend to donate some really amazing photography equipment, and that really helped me a lot. And then this Wednesday, you know, I started doing it way back in, not way back, like around Christmas. I really started pushing myself, and on this Wednesday I have my first professional shoot, so I'm going to be doing a headshot for an executive, so that's exciting. And hopefully it's a prelude to things to come. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to make money. You know, once you get the skill set, of course. So you see this little cast shadow of her hair on the neck. I'm really just hitting it with one stroke because I don't want to have this color mix. Now you see how I brought in some of the black? That's no good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my knead eraser and kind of pull up that black on the flesh. Because if I try and blend that, that's going to pretty much taint all of this color, this fleshy orange color. So I'm just going to tap that out. Art is not an inexpensive endeavor, as everyone here can attest. I mean, just now I had to purchase more acetate sheets for the Cameo 4, and I had to purchase some rechargeable batteries for one of my flashes, and that right there is like $35. So that's not even art supplies, that's just stuff I use with the art supplies. And that cost me money. Oh wow, nude zombies. That would be interesting. Hey, what do you think of that as my my next live stream? A nude zombie for the Airbrush live stream on Wednesday nights. So if she's a zombie and she's nude, is that still against the guidelines? Cover up the swimsuit. Oh, UCLA co-eds. That would be an interesting take. But are the co-ed zombies? That's the question. I don't want them to be zombies. So now you can see how we're kind of resolving this area here. Now I got to come in with that really light color and kind of blend this in here. Zombie stoners, they Okay, so now I'm going to bring in this dark color that kind of comes right in here. So I'm going to mix that orangey color, right? And I'm going to bring in some of the kind of dark brownish color. Kind of bring this over here. So you bring this color and mix over here, bring it here. Let us check it out. There we go. See, now we can blend that in. We can take stuff from this mixture, bring it over there, and we can get the exact color we want. And we can work on the edge. Kind of make her neck look more like it belongs to her. And it's never too early to go ahead and fix something that looks wrong. So now I can come here and I can adjust the shape of her neck here. Let's see what I'm missing here. So Patrick says he's got to go. Thank you so much for hanging out, sir. It's always a pleasure and great talking to you in class today. And good luck at work tomorrow. Good luck. And Alexis says, so Alexis says, I was going to start his own photography journey, but had to put it aside on hold because of your firstborn. Being a parent became your full-time job and wouldn't, oh no, being a parent is so much more important. Congrats. That's so much more important than anything. Just gonna fix her, that shape here. I can see more of her neck along the jaw. So we want to make sure that we do that. And you see, just that little thing kind of brings out her gesture a bit more. You'd be surprised, just these little things. And that's another thing. So I'm not saying that Airbrush and there's no competition. They're both great and I love them both and I paint both about, I would say about 30 hours a week each at least. I paint both of them each. But there are advantages, and the advantage you have here is I can just take a little bit more of a softer pastel and I can get greater coverage just like that. And you see how I could do that without any kind of, worries of blue shift or anything like that. Now the trick is not to doodle or noodle over there, because if you do, the black is going to be much more stronger and you're going to make mud. So no mud. This is no mud zone. Get some more water here. Yes, your baby will make an excellent model. Let's come in with this orange again. Starting to get the edge work going, and then we can come in with the foam core, right? And the foam core, we can use that to, really get the edge work we want. I'm going to soften up this edge over here with the foam core. Just kind of scumble over a light color over that. Kind of calm everything down. You'd be surprised that scumbling a light color over what you have will go a long way to helping you to smooth things out, get rid of a lot of the blotchiness, and have a good base to continue to paint. The way I was taught by Harvey Dinnerstein is a lot different, and it's a great way to paint. I just sort of went my own direction after doing it a while, but his way is really amazing. He would just continue not mixing the pastel, but he would continue to put layer upon layer, and eventually all the colors your eyes would do the mixing, which is a great way to paint. That's how I was trained, but I kind of went my own direction. I could still paint in that method if I wanted to, but this is my method of choice. So you can see as I come over this with this kind of scumble over this color, I'm not really lightening the color, but I'm kind of evening it out so it looks much more realistic. So this is what I'm talking about, surface texture, and how important surface texture is, because once you get that surface texture, then you can start doing stuff like this. So you see I'm going to put in the white here, maybe a little bit of pink. I'm looking for a real washed out pink. This is more like a washed out purple. So let me see if I can find a washed out pink. I kind of like this color. And let's put this over here right next to it. Yeah, that's kind of nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to kind of glaze over some of this color just to even it out, and then I could deepen it and change it. But you can see how this is really evening things out. And that's so, you know, the way I work in pastel is that I'm going to be painting this about 4 or 5 times before it's over. Just doing everything 4 or 5 times until I get the surface texture that I want and the values that I want. So you see, if I come over here and just glaze over this sort of dark area, I can come back to it and darken it, but at least I'm getting rid of any kind of blotchiness that's there. And that's because when you're putting pastel on dry surface, it has really nothing to really stick to. I mean, it only sticks to itself and to the board. But as you keep putting layers of pastel, it starts sticking to the other pastel around it, and that's when you start getting this kind of beautiful layers of pastel. See how that's nice and dark there? So I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to glaze some lighter color over here, kind of scumble that over it, and now I have a real nice smooth application that I have something good to work with. So remember, you know, when you watch me work in pastel, it's a very you know, surface oriented, right? I'm working on the surface and trying to get surface texture. So in the early going, it's pretty much that, building up value very, very slowly. And eventually I'll get there. So even here on her clavicle, right, I'm just going to lighten this up. So I'm always moving around, moving around, moving around. And I'm even putting in this lighter color over here so I can smooth this out. Now I killed this triangle. Time to get another one. See, I have pre-cut triangles over here, and I have a lot of the foam, but not foam core. Okay, so time to cut some foam core. Be right back. Let's see. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. I had some foam core just a little while ago. Never clean your studio because you're never going to find anything. I found it. Okay. See, just this little piece like right there is going to go a long way. I'm just going to cut a couple. That should be good for our needs for a little bit. And now I'll just peel this off. And now we're going to glaze over here. What that's doing is going to even out the texture and the amount of pastel over the surface, so when I start painting it's actually going to have a uniform quality, which is really nice. Same thing with her forehead. So if we come up to her forehead, we can definitely, let me blow this off. Whoops, sorry about that. So like I said, when pastel artists get wind of this, then this thing should be crowded. But we'll see. The internet is kind of funny. Like I said, I've been painting in pastel since I was a kid. So I really don't have to think as much when I'm painting in pastel. I love how things are really kind of smoothing out there for us. Let's see what I've been missing. Oh, Brad says she's really coming together. Thank you, sir. And no, this is actually the foam core I'm using now. The other stuff is that foam stuff, you know. And Alexa says, oh yeah, babies are great. They are. They do grow up so quick. I'm keeping that orange there, you know, the exaggerated orange over here, because I like it. And you could do that. It's your painting. Okay, now we can start glazing some orange over here. Actually, that's more of a fleshy color. So I'm going to actually use the foam, and we're going to come in with the orange fleshy color. There's that little flesh color that I love so much. There we go. Let's make this happen. So now we could bring this orangey flesh color down. So I come in 1, 2, 3, reload. 1, 2, 3. When I'm working in the foam, 1, 2, 3, reload. When I'm scumbling with the foam core, I just scumble away. See, there's a difference in approach of each tool. I've been working in color so long, it's hard for me to actually, you know, when I'm teaching, to, you know, verbalize, you know, the colors I'm mixing and everything, because it's more second nature. So when a lot of people said, ah, Tim's good, but he doesn't work in color, And I just had to hold my tongue for a lot of months because actually somebody really big in the art world said, wow, they were like, yeah, a lot of people say Tim's good, but he can't work in color. And I just didn't say a word, right? Because I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to show that person that, you know, I'm working in black and white because I wanted to get really good at the airbrush and I wanted to do some things that are a little bit different, you know, learn about edges, control, and everything like that over those course of several years, course of like 8 years. And now I could, you know, have that control of the airbrush in black and white, and now I can really go to town with this. And so, good question. So Nameless says you work from hard to soft. Yes, that's correct. And that's probably been his frustration in working in pastel and color is I always try to work from soft to hard. Definitely. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Great to see you, sir. What an honor. So basically, yeah, so with pastels, remember, with pastels you have to cover, right? And once you put a soft pastel, hard pastel won't cover soft pastel. So you have to work from hard to soft at all times in pastel. So like my real super soft colors, like the brands Sennelier and Schminke, those are the colors I reserve for the end of the painting. Otherwise, your surface texture, see how we rub in a lot of colors and everything like that? That's to keep all the texture really thin. And so I could do, you know, a lot more values on top, right? And you see I'm constantly reloading with this really nice flesh color over here. Maybe a little bit more orange. And now we're let go. And right here, this is a nice flesh color. So we're going to put some flesh color over that. So usually you see me do this 1, 2, 3 and I move on. And then we'll do that technique later where we'll go over this with the white and scumble the white over this. Look at that, we're getting close to 9:30, so this has been really great. So we have another about 10 minutes. I'm really enjoying showing you like the real secrets of my technique. This is a technique, I didn't learn this technique of working with the palette. That's my own technique. And you guys are all getting a real sneak peek of this, but I'm glad to give it to you, glad to support you guys and show you techniques that you wouldn't even get in a National Academy School of Fine Arts or anything like that. This is you would get this exclusively here. And what's really cool, there's only 11 of you, so the rest of the world hasn't caught on. That's your gain, everybody. Really loving how this is coming. So I'm also gonna try and put some of this flesh color. I'm actually gonna do something different since we're getting to the end. I'm gonna use the foam core as the actually the foam as a foam core right here, kind of like scumble that in. Now you can see the same dark, we can come over here. But I want to close out with something really cool. I'm going to take my airbrush and I'm going to take, oh, I'm at a detail mixture. I'm going to go ahead and load this with straight detail mixture in my airbrush. And this is going to be cool. Oh, thanks, Colette. Colette says she looks amazing. I appreciate that. But if you want the real meat sandwich, you're going to have to, hey, thank you so much. Yes. In my mentorship classes is where we go super deep. And that's, you know, that's where you really get the whole enchilada. So I want to make this darker over here. And if I do it in pastel, I can, but I want to show you, since we are all airbrush artists here, we could use our airbrush and our freehand shield to kind of get the cast shadow of her hair onto this shoulder. And I think this is wild. I love this part. And I can darken up this value here of her clavicle, coming up here. There we go. And I just want to thank my students for always being so great and always giving wonderful testimony of the classes. I mean, in the airbrush, I really appreciate you guys. I just want you to know that. And those who attend the live streams and give the super chats and everything, I just want to thank you all. It's just so great. And thank you for everyone for joining and being a subscriber to the channel, helping it grow. I'm also going to start doing more of the, you know, my blog posts during the day, you know, during the week, just some writings that I think would be good for airbrush artists as well as pastel painters. So if you want to be part of that mailing list, just give me your, just, you know, in the comment section, just give me your email address and you'll be part on the mailing list there. And Mr. Lang says 100% agree. Tim's mentorship program is amazing. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Steve, always for your wonderful encouragement and support. I really appreciate that, sir. And Colette says, well worth the time and money. Thank you. Thank you. And so you see now I could just incorporate that airbrush, and you see how I can get that dark value right away, and I can also increase the distance of the airbrush from the painting, and I can get it much softer as it comes down like so. Now I can even do other things if I wanted to, but that's something I'll save for another day. But let's say, for instance, I wanted to do some of the dark areas. I can do that very quickly with the airbrush. I mean, it's quite cool. So let's say I took my freehand shield and I covered this up here. I can actually come in and start doing some of the darks of the hair. Look at that. So you see how the airbrush, even though in the beginning we relegate that to the underpainting, we can still come in and add grays that we would be very much hard pressed just doing it in pastel. So working with the pastel has really helped me with my black and white paintings. I add white pastel, but also working in airbrush helps my pastel paintings because I can come in later and do stuff like this and create that transparency. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. John. I appreciate it. He says the mentorship program, you are missing out on so much. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. So right there you see, and let's blow some air on there. And just like when I'm working, there's no difference. Just like when I'm working, you know, in black and white with the airbrush, I'm in no rush to finish this. The second you're in a rush, you go outside your game plan and you make mistakes and bad things happen. So you don't want that, you don't want that. So now we have that, right? And I want to bring in that orange color. So now I can try and scumble that. Scumble is what we do with the foam core, remember? And see here on the smaller screen, I'm just going to come in with this orange here. And then I could see how I can sort of bring that flesh to life. It's nice when a plan kind of comes together, right? And now I can bring some of that really nice orangey color, and I'll come with the foam, regular foam. And remember, we use this kind of dark here. Let's just see how it goes. Nice. See, now we're bringing, that's a little too much. It's like, what are you thinking, Tim? Right? So let's just remove that. Tap, tap, tap. And let's do another mixture, shall we? So we're going to come in with our orange, right? Over here. And we're going to bring in, let's see, some of that nice kind of brownish color, like a burnt orange color right next to it. And maybe just a little bit of this kind of pink color here. And let's mix it together and see what we have, guys and girls. That seems nice. Yeah, I like it. It's not too dark, but it also keeps it from looking too dull, too gray. Gotta bring life into that gray. See that? How we can bring that life into the gray and bring this down, scumble this down. And then we could bring in that color elsewhere. And we're just eventually working that out. So now we want to come in with that kind of fleshy color here. Kind of blend that in. We got all the time in the world to blend this in. We're just establishing color relationships now. And we'll get to exactly where we want to be. And that's too yellow in that one spot. So what's the opposite of yellow? So let's get out our little handy dandy color wheel. So this is kind of an orangey kind of thing going on here. So we're going to go ahead and add its complement. And we're looking for like a little bit of blue, right? So I'm going to add just the tiniest bit of blue to this. Let's see if that works. Yep, kind of just calms that down almost immediately. So it's always good to have your color wheel know, how to identify a complement, and that's going to help you to, either accentuate the saturation of a color or the chromatic value. See how I brought that down and just calmed it down? Again, like we did in the beginning, I'm telling my colors, calmate, right? Tranquilo. Alright, so that's where we're going to leave this gorgeous young lady for now, but I think it was a really good demonstration. We got a lot done, fixed the neck, started working over here, and some of the things that we're able to do, we were able to figure out what is surface texture and how do you achieve it, and doing the glazing of the white over everything, with the foam core, kind of getting that kind of smooth surface that now you can start going in with texture. So I have to stop myself from continue to working because I'll be working all the time. So it's addictive. So everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for all of this, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. I really appreciate it. Mr. Brad, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Mr. Steve. And Patty, how are you? Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. And so everyone, thank you. John, he says she looks amazing. Thank you. And thank you so much, Jesus. You guys, thanks for a fun live stream. I will see you Wednesday at 9:30 for the airbrush tutorial. And I'm going to stick around here and clean up the mess. And I hope to see you soon, everybody.